Dragon Age Inquisition is an action RPG with amazing looking combat, large semi-open world locations, and memorable companions all tied together in an epic storyline which can be affected by the choices you make. It also has a love-hate relationship with the Dragon Age fanbase, with some people loving it and some people hating it because of how different it is from the earlier titles. As someone who's never played either of those games, I don't have this bias, so I spent 15 hours giving Inquisition a chance, not only to see how it holds up today, but also to judge whether it's even worth spending more time on. So without further ado, this is Dragon Age Inquisition. Just to put things in context, the story of Dragon Age Inquisition is set 10 years after the events of the first two games. In the previous games, you were dealing with the Blight, a cataclysmic event where demons from underground invaded the continent of Thedas. After your previous characters dealt with that in the first two games, instead of making the world a better place, the mages and Templars decided to have a civil war. So in an effort to prevent further deaths, the Divine, who is kinda like the Pope in this world, decided to have them meet in a conclave to discuss peace talks. Suddenly, a huge explosion happened, killing most of the important people on both sides, and the sky tore open, spitting out demons from the Fade. And so here is when we create our character. There's 4 options for race in the world of Dragon Age: a human, an elf, a dwarf, or a Qunari. For immersion purposes, I went for a human male, and for class, I went for the tried and true sword and shield. Once we select our race and class, we finally get to see Dragon Age Inquisition's character creation system, which does actually look pretty good even to this day, but obviously there's not as much customization as compared to what you'll get in a modern game, and also it's strangely shiny. After finalizing my look and picking the deepest voice possible for high risk stat, because yes, there's romance in this game, we went ahead and started our journey. After the explosion in the conclave, we start our story by escaping a Fade rift with the help of a mysterious entity. The guards that saw us emerge were able to provide rescue, but when we woke up, we couldn't remember anything. And not only that, but we were being held prisoner in a dungeon where 2 women began interrogating us. Apparently, we're prime suspect for the explosion in the conclave, not just because we were the only one who survived, but also because we have a mark on our hand that reacts to the breach in the sky.
You think I'm responsible?
Explain this.
Every time the breach expands, we basically tweak, so it's either we help them close the breach, or the mark on our hand kills us, and the hole in the sky swallows the whole world. Great times are ahead for Thedas. Liliana, the hooded woman from earlier, headed to the forward camp, while Cassandra guided us as we made our way as close as possible to the breach. On our way there, not only did we encounter the demons which dropped down from the sky, but we also found Fade rifts, which are smaller versions of the one above, but of course these things are spitting out demons too. And so we have our first taste of combat. Hold right trigger for basic attack, the buttons in the bottom left side for skills. We don't really have many skills yet, but the combat does feel floaty. Kinda like my attacks are hitting, but it's just passing through the enemy dealing damage. In the next fight, we were able to use our skills. One is a taunt for aggro, and the other is a shield bash, but I'm not sold on the combat system just yet. It sounds good, it looks good, but it feels just a little off. We took these guys down easily enough, but as we got closer and closer to our destination, more and more demons just kept swarming. We rescued some people who were fighting demons on their own, and Solus, an elf mage, showed us how to utilize our mark to close the rift. We also met with Varric, a charming dwarf with a cool looking crossbow, and so with our small party, we made our way to the forward camp. After encountering more demons, the game introduces us to a tactical system, an alternate combat option where the camera zooms out and gives us an overhead perspective. Time can be paused and advanced with the press of a button in this combat mode. We can also switch characters, select targets, and position our companions for the highest possible chance of success in the battle. So this is basically just the more traditional RPG combat option. I tried it out for a bit and it's not that bad, although right now I do feel like it's more efficient to just go ham in third person, but I can totally see this being very useful and fun on higher level difficulties. After closing another rift, we finally leveled up and got to see the skill tree before meeting up again with Liliana, and here we got to see what made BioWare RPGs the classics that they were. So Chancellor Roderick, this guy is a massive ass. He's not only already given up on the position of the forward camp saying it's lost, but he also doesn't have his priorities straight.
We must elect a replacement and obey her orders on the matter.
Isn't closing the breach the more pressing issue?
After steering the conversation back to the massive hole in the sky, we had our first story decision in this game. In order to get to the heart of the breach so we can close it, we can either go directly to the temple and charge in with the soldiers, which is direct, but casualties are to be expected. Or the second option is to have the soldiers charge in as a distraction while our main party takes a shortcut in the mountain pass. The risk is that scouts were lost in these mountains, so we're not sure what kind of danger we'll face. For me, I'm a warrior body and soul, and warriors don't think too hard about these things, so me and the boys will charge head on. After picking up some new drip, we began our assault on the Temple of Sacred Ashes. We charged in, fighting demons and closing rifts as we passed by. Commander Cullen's soldiers were able to get us through, but lives were lost along the way, and the fate of the scouts in the mountain pass will never see the light of day. Upon entering the temple, the party received a vision of what happened. But again, we don't really remember, so the identity of the enemy remains a mystery. But the more interesting thing is that this particular breach in the temple is a bit more complicated than the others. Solus said it's sealed, but it's not properly closed, so we'd have to open it up, fight whatever demon comes out, and properly close it to finally end this threat. And so that's what we did. And lo and behold, a big-ass armored demon comes out of the hole we just created. Great. This guy was tough. And I don't just mean that figuratively, he's actually armored to the bones. Our attacks didn't do much, but slowly we whittled down his guard, and also I was using my mark to disrupt the rift, causing the demon to be stunned. After the most intense holding of RT that I've ever done, we finally brought down the demon and had our chance to close the breach. Three days passed and we woke up in a place called Haven. A servant elf informed us of what happened, and apparently the breach is still in the sky, but we have stopped it from growing and the people believe the threat to be over. Outside was a huge crowd of people trying to get a look at us, as we were named the Herald of Andraste.
That's him. That's the Herald of Andraste. They said when he came out of the Fade, Andraste herself was watching over him.
A holy man chosen by the Bride of the Maker to bring people salvation, or something like that. We don't really know if that's true, but that's what people have come to believe. Obviously, the main religion in this world, the Chantry, doesn't like that, so Chancellor Roderick kept calling for us to be put on trial. He's still acting like a massive breach on my backside. Liliana and Cassandra disagree with putting me on trial and instead want to focus on actually sealing the breach for good, so they overturned Roderick's command, invoked a writ from the late Divine, the Pope, and according to her directives, they re-established the Inquisition of old.
As of this moment, I declare the Inquisition reborn. We will close the breach, we will find those responsible, and we will restore order with or without your approval.
An ancient order which preceded the Chantry, and a group of people who banded together to restore order in the world. And so, the Inquisition is reborn. I really like when RPGs do this and make you feel like you're becoming a part of something significant in its world. I get that we're supposed to be the chosen one, but at this moment, I actually feel like I'm destined for something great. This is pretty good. Anyway, this is where Inquisition first opens up, and we actually get to see what this game really has to offer. First, we get access to the War Table, a huge map that allows us to unlock new locations, semi-open worlds to explore and quest in. It also has these operations where you can influence the world through the decisions you make, but they're more like dispatch missions that give you a reward once the timer is complete, so it's not really as cool as it sounds. So here's our objectives. Number 1, we need allies to close the breach. The Chantry hates us thanks to Roderick, and both the Templars and Mages don't care because we lack power and they're busy fighting each other. So our destination becomes the Hinterlands, where me and the boys decided would be a great place to not only gather allies, but also spread the influence of the Inquisition so we could get some damn respect. We go to the War Table, have our people scout, and so here we are in the Ferelden Hinterlands, and holy crap, we spent a lot of time here. I heard from players that this is a make it or break it part for a lot of people because of how many things you can do just in this first area, and while that may sound like a good thing, People get burnt out of the game way too early before they even leave this place and see what else the game has in store. And that was actually the case for me back in 2014 on the PS3, so this is the first time I'm really committed to giving this game a chance. Anyway, this is how the next 10 hours went by. So we explored almost every part of the Hinterlands and we did a lot of quests here. Some of them are genuinely pretty interesting, like this puzzle where you do a ritual to summon someone's dead grandpa, and another one where one of our scouts end up missing, but then when you find them, they're raising up an elf and were missing because they were meeting in secret. This makes the game feel quite alive, and you get a sense that people are moving in the background, especially with the backdrop of the story being that there's a war going on right here and people are trying to escape. Some people are being stubborn, and there's family members and lovers fighting on different sides of the war. There was also this huge dragon that we found way off in the corner of the map who actually just burned us to death, so we'll come back to this guy once we're a little bit stronger. Anyway, my early hours on the Hinterlands map was very fun and satisfying. But then I started getting to these quests where you know that the developers just put this here to squeeze out playtime out of you. Specifically this escort quest where you have to escort this slow-moving cow past a whole fade rift and he just won't follow. There were also collectibles which I actually enjoy when done right, but here I don't really understand their purpose. You look at these skulls, you find shards, you map out constellations, but for what purpose? A tiny bit of XP? They could have made it a little better. But that being said, the other quests here that involve people are pretty satisfying. For example, back in Haven, we heard our people talking about a legendary horse master named Master Dennett, and that the Inquisition badly needed a horse master. He can be found in the Hinterlands at the far west side of the map, and in order to get him to help, you'd have to secure the safety of his farming village. So taking care of local dangers like wolves going crazy because of demonic influence from the rifts, and building watchtowers by scouting locations and then ordering your people through the war table to build them. Once you return, those watchtowers are actually there, and so when you affect the world with your decisions, even in a side quest, it makes the game feel great and really immersive, which is a massive plus. And the best thing is that we actually recruited Horsemaster Dennett, and he takes care of my mounts now. And yes, there's a mount system, but honestly it's pretty bad, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. I didn't use it that much. Also, we did try romancing someone at this stage of the game, but it's way too early and we got shut down, so there's not a lot there for me to talk about.
I'd like to discuss your parents.
A little sudden, but it's time someone made an honest man of me.
What? Very amusing. This is serious.
But it was pretty fun to just pull out. Anyway, back in the main story, after all the things we did in the Hinterlands, helping out people and spreading our name, we are now basically one of the better choices in terms of factions for the people that needed help, and that word has spread. I mean, if you're a peasant and Templars and mages are taking your stuff, your homes, your family, who are you gonna go to? The Chantry who's busy trying to defame the Inquisition when the Inquisition was actually boots on the ground helping? So with the support of the people, me and the boys now have enough power and influence to directly confront the clerics, and it went pretty terribly for them. First of all, the Templars, who were supposed to be the sword and shield of the Chantry, defected. So without their guards, the Chantry is left with pretty much nothing. They're not a threat anymore. The bigger threat are the Templars, because remember, nobody knows still about who was responsible for the explosion of the Conclave, and right now, the Templars are looking mighty sus. Back in Haven, the team gave us a choice about who to investigate, the Templars or the mages, and for me I wanted to see what's happening with the Templars, so they were my first choice. But apparently we needed more agents, so agent hunting we went. With the Chantry having no power, word of the Inquisition has spread and people have begun to look into us. We did quests to acquire new companions, people like Blackwall, a Grey Warden who fought the Blight, Sarah who's looking to help the common folks, Vivienne who is a powerful court mage, and my boy Iron Bull who leads the legendary mercenary company the Bull's Chargers. So these guys, you can bring them with you when you go out into the world. You can play as them, they have character quests, and they can be romance. These are the main cast, including of course the people that are already part of the Inquisition like Varric and Solus and the people at the war table. Once we acquired enough power, the game gives us a final chance to pick which side we want to investigate. If we investigate the Templars, the mages will not be available anymore as a faction, and if we investigate the mages, the Templars will be likewise unavailable for the rest of the playthrough. For now, I decided to leave the mages questline for when I do a mage playthrough, so I went ahead and met with the Templars who are hiding out in a place called Therenfall Redound. And we are not alone. We've got 10 noble houses that support the Inquisition, helping us to pressure these Templars into helping out and closing the breach. Now, at the end of this quest line, we actually uncover a demonic plot that were pulling the strings in the background, which is why the Templars were acting weird. And after we dealt with that with a pretty cool boss fight, we had another story-defining choice that affects the future of the Templars themselves. We can either let the Templars build themselves up again with what remains of them, or we absorb them into the Inquisition and dissolve the Templar Order. I went for the latter because I wanted to build an Inquisition army, much to the dismay of former Templars in our ranks. Now, with the help of the former Templars, we launched a full-scale assault on the Temple of Sacred Ashes in order to close the breach once and for all. And finally, the threat was over. Or so we thought, because in the middle of our celebration, as the people were drinking, dancing, and having fun, the real threat showed itself in the form of a huge army looking to besiege Haven. And they've got a dragon. The story has just begun. Pros: Dragon Age Inquisition has aged beautifully. While the character models feel plasticky at times, especially in cutscenes, the world itself, the vegetation, the lighting is still very beautiful. The story is genuinely interesting, and I really feel like I'm affecting the world around me with the decisions I make. And the companions are fun to be around. Not only are they actually helpful both in combat and in exploration, where certain classes can allow you to access hidden areas, but they also banter a lot, and they have interesting conversations as you adventure in the world. Cons: the combat still feels floaty, and while it's not as bad as you unlock more skills, it's not an amazing combat system. It's passable. Also, there's a lot of bloat, and you hear people saying that a lot online, but to actually experience it really feels like your time is being wasted, so I chose not to engage with those mechanics after a while. Lastly, 30 FPS cutscenes. This is a remnant of, I assume, the game being designed primarily for a console, but come on, it just looks bad when the game runs so smoothly and then you get to a cutscene and it takes you out of your immersion. That being said, I did enjoy this by quite a lot, and if you want to see my full review after completing this game, including the DLCs, check it out in this video right here. Like and subscribe for more, and thank you to patrons for supporting the channel. Link is in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.